I've got a very special man here with me named Nick Tello, and he's this killer music producer that's been helping other people learn how to produce and all that good stuff. He's one of my clients, and he's just been crushing it. So I just wanted to interview him and kind of share his story a little bit. Nick, thank you for joining me.
Of course, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Cool. So tell me a little bit about your background, man. Like, where were you kind of before we started working together? What was your situation, and what was kind of the problem that you were running into?
Yeah, so before this, I had a coaching business, but it was pretty much just the infrastructure and the fulfillment side of things. I worked with someone previously and he showed me how to actually like build the business in terms of like how to fulfill, how to like run a basic sales call, things like that. But for 2 years, like I had an audience around pandemic time and the very beginning it popped off and I had all these like super hot leads that wanted to pay me. And then for the next 2 years, it just fizzled out almost to the like I had to get a job basically. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like I was full time and then I had to get a job and then I got this like closer gig which was horrible and then I got this setter gig which was like barely enough for me to make up my income and so like right before we met I was closing maybe one client a month if that and then making up the rest of it with my part-time gig, you know what I mean? Just grinding it out with a bunch of hours.
Okay. So you were full time in it before with your business.
Yeah, I was full time at one point, and then I like ran myself into the ground with like expenses and debt, and I was just like trying to keep it up. But like all I really knew how to do was make content and like kind of do sales calls, you know what I mean? But I just wasn't getting enough leads, and so I was just like there was no leads, there's no leads of some money.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay. So the issue was kind of you were like doing the whole posting and praying thing where
Yeah,
you,
yeah, yeah. I was posting and praying the entire time.
yeah. Okay. Gotcha, man. So you had a warm audience for a while and that kind of dwindled out. And that was kind of the point where you needed some sort of fix. Like, what did you try?
I made some memes. Like I had a couple memes that went semi-viral, and then I'd get a bunch of people coming through that, and that would like re-engage my account. But what would happen is like I had this huge influx in December of 2023. I had like, you know, three new people sign up for the first time because I had a couple memes go viral. And then what
Mhm.
happened? Same thing happened. Like it just went down and down and down. And you know what I mean? That was like December. And so there was like a little bit of a pop. I got like one client a month more or less, you know what I mean? By May, it was like completely fizzled out again, you know?
Yeah. How were you feeling like in that scenario, man? Because I know when I feel like I don't have a system, it kind of is like worrisome. Like, what was it like being in that scenario?
It was pretty much hopeless. I was like ready for the next step, whatever that was going to be. But I knew that it was going to involve like, you know, learning how to run ads or something like that. I knew that because I had a setter job and the setter job was also commission. And so I was like, well, bugging the setter job. I'm like, well, you guys aren't closing. I took this gig to get, you know what I mean? And then I wasn't landing clients. And then when you're kind of just like hoping that you're the guy that's been following you for 2 years is finally ready to sign up, but you can't
Yeah.
find him and you don't know where he is. But that's usually what it is, you know what I mean? It's so random and you're just like, I guess I'll just keep doing what I'm doing and hope something comes along.
So it felt a little out of your control.
Yeah, yeah, I was just completely powerless and like hopeless. And like, yeah, I had a bunch of times where I had to like figure it out. Like I had to offer like continuation packages to everyone. And so I'm doing these like 4 1 hour one-on-ones for $500 and selling them to like a bunch of people. And it's like, yay, I made $7,000, but now I have to fulfill like, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
40 hours of one-on-ones. I have to
Yeah.
like figure it out. And it was not fun.
Yeah. Okay. What made you like finally decide to get help, man?
I talked to Zach, and Zach was like, he mentioned you, and he was like, he's the guy. It's like very dialed in for specifically like what I'm looking for, and I always knew I was gonna have to run ads. The thing is, I never had capital to run ads, and I never had capital to do much of anything. And then I finally like was able to get a little bit of consistency going as far as like my side gig and my the work that I was doing, just like with landing my one client a month or whatever. And so I was able to get a little bit of capital and so I was like, all right, if I don't use the fact that I have like a little bit of income coming in now to figure out how to run ads and to figure this out, like, you know, it's just like now or never. You know, it's like I can't wait. And then like what happens if I run out of money and then I'm just like in the same position where it's
So you
so
had like this moment where you're like, "Hey, I have this capital now. I better take advantage of it." And
yeah, and I didn't even like have the money to sign up, but I was like, I have enough income to where like I can justify like taking on this debt, and I could get away with spending like $1,000 a month. You know what I mean? Because I was already putting money into other things like videos and stuff like that, and so I was like, now that I'm profiting at least like 1,000, 2,000 a month, now I can justify like trying to grow things now that I'm not in like a pure survival mode. But also I was like, man, I can't just half-ass my business and then half do this like side gig that pays me nothing. It's like not sustainable. I couldn't see myself setting for a company that pays me 3,000 a month, 25 hours a week, and then also working in my own company that I'm passionate about
Mm.
that you know what I mean, is way less time and way more fun. You know what I mean? It's like I'd rather go in on the thing that pays me more and is more fun at the end
Mm.
of the day.
Okay. Talk to me a little bit about that, man, because I think there's a lot of people who fear debt. If you're buying like a purse or something and you're going into debt with that, that's a little bit different. But
Yeah.
mine and your scenario was like our lives kind of changed because we took on debt. When I hired my first coach, I had about $1,000 in my pocket. And I was like, I'm balling. Let's go. I'm gonna put down this
Yeah.
1K.
Yeah.
And then he was like, it was 10K. I was like, "Ugh." But then I
Yeah.
did it anyways. And then now I'm here and I can do this. So kind of like run me through that, man. Like, what's your mindset behind taking on the debt, all that stuff? What would you say to somebody who knows they can do this, but they're afraid to take on things like debt?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like for me, I've invested in mentorship before. So like I have those experiences to run off of. The very first time someone was like, oh, this is like 2.5K, you know what I mean? And you could pay it off over like a few months or whatever. The first time someone ever said that to me, I was like, "Ugh," you know what I mean? And that was probably like the first time I signed up for this mentorship. Um, my experience with that was I paid 2.5K and like over the course of a year and a half, I did like 150K. So to me, it's like that wasn't so new to me. But like the very
Mm.
first time that someone was like, you have to pay, you know what I mean, like 2.5K, which is not a lot compared to $10,000. You know what I mean? I was like shocked, and I was a little bit like resentful because he was like, oh, like if you pay on the phone, you like, you know what I mean? We bring it down this much, and it was kind of like you kind of have to, you know what I mean? Because if you don't, you're missing out on all this money that you could have saved. And so I was actually like kind of salty about it when he first did that. And then like I made my money back times 10 in a month. And then that's when I started realizing like, oh no, investing into like anything that's ROI business related, that's like, proven and that like has a track record, is a no-brainer. And also like, you know what I mean? If something's recommended by someone that that's obviously 10 times more valuable. And it was recommended by someone that I know. But the way I see it, it's like the risk of doing nothing is way bigger. You know what I mean? The risk of like just sitting there and hoping that I muster up the motivation to like pay for a video course that teaches me how to run ads that I can
Mhm.
do like 2 hours a night on like Mondays. You know what I mean? It's way better to just like put some actual skin in the game with something that's good and proven and like is very like personalized and is going to actually get you to your goal. Because that's what happens too. Like when you pay a bunch of money, you have skin in the game, and it's better to it. You better
Yeah.
actually like, and that's how I felt. I was like that first like couple months together, man. I was working 12 hours a day because I was like, I
Yeah.
just spent all this money. I have to, you know what I mean? And it paid off huge, man.
I couldn't agree more, man. Like there's like this massive beast that just like unleashes out of you when
Yeah,
you know you have that much like money on the line. I
yeah,
have like hundreds of courses that are sitting in my bookmark right now that I spent like a grand or a couple $100 on. And I don't do anything with it. I don't even have a login sometimes because there's just
yeah.
not enough skin in the game. Whereas you pay somebody like 10, 20K or something like that, you're like, I better do everything this guy says, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. You're like listening to the trainings while you're making breakfast on
Yeah.
repeat. That was me, man. That was me. And like over the summer, it was great.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure like you went into debt to work with me too.
Yeah.
What did that look like, man? Like talk about like how quickly you were able to pay that off, all that good stuff.
Kind of coming into the call like, okay, I'm probably not gonna do this, and I like low key like told you over DM. I was like, I'm probably not gonna do it, by the way. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And like we all know how that went. But 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 like you dropped it on me, and I was like, oh motherfucker. And I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna. Also, you caught me at a really funny time, and you caught me like the day before I was leaving for Rhode Island. Like, yeah, because I was getting out of LA because I was like stressing me out, and so I was like right before going on this like trip to just kind of isolate on an island by myself. When you were like, "Oh, it's like this much," and I was like, you know what? This sounds like exactly what I need. Like, it obviously like has to be exactly the next logical step. And for me, it was like such the next logical step. I was even like, you know what I mean? You were talking to me about a firm, and I was like, nah, I'm gonna put it all on my business credit card. And then I just paid that. And then I was like, um, dude, like, yeah, I made like first off, like I made 20K in my first month between all my sources of income, and coaching was probably like 12K of that, right? And so second month I got my first lead off of ads, which is fucking huge. You know what I mean? That's like getting a lead off of paying money for an ad. I remember like I got two clients off of ads. I spent $600 on those ads, and those clients were 4K each, which means that it was like 7.4K profit off of $600 of ads.
Yeah.
And I was like, it was like eureka, you know what I mean? I paid off that credit card in full by the end of August, and we started working together in like June. So it was like, honestly, it was like 2 months, something like that, that I paid it off entirely. I was really excited about that because I was like, man, like if I'm making this amount every month, and like a lot of this is already going towards the debt, you know what I mean? What's going to happen when I'm making this much and now I don't have to pay off the debt? Bro, it just goes straight into my bank account, you know?
Yeah.
It's great.
Crazy, man. So you were
Yeah,
able to pay it off in 2 months max.
exactly.
That's
Yeah.
yeah, crazy, man. And then now you're just printing.
Yeah,
But
now it's great. Now I'm just like, it's never as predictable as like having a job, obviously, but it's like wildly more predictable now that I have leads coming in, and now that I've shown that I've been profiting. You know what I mean? I've had 5-figure months for the last 3 months. It's just like a track record. I remember I was like talking to my mom before I quit my job, and I was giving her the numbers of like what I made off my own business versus my part-time business. And my own mom like told me to quit my part-time job. Really like a funny thing to hear from your mom, you know what I mean, who's probably
yeah.
going to tell you to do the safer option.
Yeah. Tell us about that, dude. That's huge news.
Yeah, I got to a point where like I wanted to be safe and like hold on to this part-time like dinky 3K a month job that I was doing, you know, until I had a certain amount stacked. And then I got my funnel up and running, which is like the craziest, coolest thing to me. I got two VSL bookings today. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, you know what I mean? Two like people that booked calls off of my VSL that I didn't have to talk to, you know what I mean? And they already booked calls. And it's like I have so many leads coming in that eventually I was like, dude, it is time for me to like take the next risk, which is to devote myself to the business and to like servicing these leads. You know what I mean? And to like prospecting while they're all coming in, even though I don't have like what I wanted to have saved before I quit my job. Cause I was like, dude, it's just too much at this point. You know what I mean? And the track record has shown 20K, 2K of that was my side gig. July, admittedly a slow month, I did like 7.5K. 3K was my side gig. August, I did like 18K. 3K was my side gig. October, I did 14K, and 3K was my side gig. And so I was like, according to the how this is going, it's not even that big of a risk to quit my part-time job at this point, because it's like if I had 25 hours a week back, who's to say those whatever the 10K I made off my business in October couldn't have been 15K if I was like dialing in on these leads a little bit harder.
Congratulations, first of all, man, because you're quitting your
Yeah.
job and you're going all in now that you have a proven system. And I think it's super great, like the way you can look at it too, right? Because you're looking at it from the fact of like, I'm making 3K, but I'm losing 25 hours. If I took that
Yeah.
25 hours and put it into my business, like how much more could I make? So
Yeah, exactly.
you're probably losing money holding on to a job, because
Yeah, that's how I saw it.
if you went all in on this, man, which you're going all in now starting last week, so we're only going to be able to tell like what's really going to happen in the next couple of months, and I'm sure you're probably going to be able to double your business. Like no
Yeah,
problem.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's gonna be a lot easier and a lot less stressful too.
Dude, that's super cool, man. So before like you joined with me, you were still making money. You were just there was a little bit of unpredictability, a lot of probably anxiety from just like not really knowing, like having a streamlined system. What's
Mhm.
changed, man? Like how has it been since like you've worked with me and you've built out the things I'm showing you?
It's honestly like my mental state above anything, which might sound like a kind of random answer, but in reality, like I've spent the last 2 years with like anxiety about money because I've been trying to do this, and I've locked in on the fact that like I actually like really enjoy this from a lifestyle standpoint in terms of I like coaching, I like the business model, I like the flexibility, I like all of it. But it was always like, dear God, I hope someone books a sales call.
Mhm.
And you know what I mean? And like I hope that I can convince them to pay me. And like it would never work out. Like it would work out sometimes. And like it was so like rare though, to be honest with you. Sometimes I'd hook people in on like 12, 16-month payment plans is because I'd just be so desperate. And so like I don't have like the desperation anymore, which is huge. You know what I mean? I was like desperate, you know what I mean? You should hear some of these sales calls, man, from like when I was going through it.
Yeah.
There's no more desperation. I don't have as much anxiety. Like the anxiety is always kind of there because you're like, oh, I'm not up to my quota for the month. You know what I mean? But it's like, you know what I mean? We're only halfway through or whatever. And so, there's always that, but it's like just people coming in, and when you look at like the numbers historically, things are going to work out. So it's like I don't have that anxiety and that desperation, and that's kind of it's like the biggest thing, man. The anxiety, the desperation, the stress, that stuff is like super mitigated now that I have a system of like leads coming in, and I have like logical way to run the sales calls and like get people on board and do stuff like that. So yeah, it's like the mental effect is the biggest one for sure.
I get it, man. You maneuver a lot different when you have abundance versus
Yeah.
like operating in scarcity. Because there's definitely like if I turn off ads or like if I'm not doing something right and I'm running lean and there's nobody coming in, like it's a completely different feeling. So I know what you're talking about, man. You kept mentioning Zach. Zach is another one of my clients for anybody that doesn't know, but Zach kind of like got you in here. What about Zach made you actually want to join? Was it something that he said, or was it like his results, or what does that look like?
Well, yeah, I mean, like Zach and I just like hopped on a phone on like a random phone call just to meet each other. You know what I mean? It wasn't even anything really. And then like we talked about, I told him about setting, and he was like, "Oh, like maybe you should set for me. Like I'll send you some stuff." And then I told him about my business, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I worked with Chris." And like, I mean, if you want me to be honest, he told me that he made $100,000 already that year, and it was a lot of it was due to the fact that he was working with you. And he said that like if you're looking to do what we're trying to do, which is like a kind of like a music mentorship type thing, then he said you were the guy. Like you have the system. You are. He was like Chris is the guy. And like I looked on your page and I was like, oh, it's just like a perfect fit. You know what I mean? It's like I coaching program that teaches people how to mix, and you were pretty much that, you know what I mean? But now you're just doing it from a business standpoint. And I always knew I was going to work with someone eventually again one day. It just had to be like the right person at the right time. And then Zach told me about you. I wasn't even that desperate like when I hit you up, because
Mhm.
like I said, I'd been profiting a little bit every month with my side gig, but it was definitely time for the next step. So it just yeah, it all just made sense.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. It's kind of a great thing too. Like if you do things right, I guess by people, it just compounds. It's just
Yeah.
very, very much
Yeah,
proof on that.
exactly.
One more thing I want to ask you, man, is just like there's people who are in a position that maybe you were once in who are just like really fearful. They just don't have the finances or like unlimited finances to be able to sign up for a coach.
Yeah.
What would you say to those people who are on the fence about joining our program? Like, what would you say to them?
I'll say, yeah, it's an investment, but the investment isn't really where a lot of like the weight is. I think a lot of the weight is actually in like the work that you put in. Anyone can take on some debt to pay for something. But in reality, I think it comes down to like your ability to really just like put in that work in those first few months. And I think that that's really where the question is like, because what I did is that I like dedicated, you know what I mean, the first 2, 3 months to really seeing this through and to like getting my VSL and to like creating my funnel. And now being on the other side, like it's paid off. And now being on the other side of like having my funnel set up and having all these leads come in, I feel like I'm living in a dream, to be honest with you. You know what I mean? Because it's like I don't have to work my job anymore. I have like these people coming in. I'm getting paid more than I ever have. And it has a lot to do with the fact that like I put that work in and like I invested in myself. But I think that like what I'm trying to say is like it's a no brainer as long as someone's willing to put that work in, you know what I mean, and make it happen, because it's a system that works. It's just about like putting the work in, and like the money you'll make back as long as you put the work in. Yeah, a lot of people put so much emphasis on the financial bit, and I feel like that's the first barrier. But as long as like the mindset is correct around like, you know what I mean, like making sure that that commitment is solid, then yeah, it's just like it's bound to work.
You're right. Like the financial thing is the first barrier. That's like the barrier people can't overlook yet. But
Yeah.
it does take work. Like, please don't come in and expect that it's just a silver bullet and it's just going to fix everything just because you paid money. Like, you still have to put in effort. It's not that it's the hardest thing in the world, but it's also not the easiest thing in the world. But everything is laid out for you. You
It's
just
a
have to
lot of
execute.
fun. Yeah, I don't know. If, like for me, it's like a lot of fun. You know what I mean? It's like a little game. You know, it's like
Yeah.
ooh, my DSL is like already. I can like, you know what I mean? It's just it's work, but it's like a lot of fun, and it's the most fulfilling thing in the world because it's yours. You know,
Yeah.
at the end of the day.
Completely, dude. I was the same way. I just was
Yeah.
working endlessly when I first started all of this, and that's kind of what it takes. But
Yeah.
that spending that money helps you work harder than you ever think you would.
Oh yeah, it's great.
Awesome, man. Well, I really appreciate you showing up, man, and like talking to me about this. But is there anything else you want to mention before we jump off?
Like I said, I'm super excited for the future. Yeah, I can't thank you enough, honestly.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Nick, you're crushing it. Music producer that is coaching full time and you just quit your job. Fucking amazing, dude.
Yeah, awesome, man. Thanks.